literally everything is the same. Like, literally every story is the same. I mean, I can't put it in any more simpler terms than that. We're probably all aware at this point that the majority of the series or movies being put out is either repetitive or extremely predictable. It's all the exact same formulas, to the point many can recite a gacha story plot off the top of their heads without even being specific, and that plot would apply to thousands of mini-movies and series. It's an accepted fact that the writing in the gacha community is so underdeveloped, and that's pretty depressing and kinda pathetic. I've already mentioned why I think this happens in the demographic section, so I won't elaborate on that too much now. Instead, here's what I'm gonna suggest for those struggling with originality or even just their plots in general. This is what everyone says when they give advice on being original, and it's do something outside the box. Create a fresh concept. And by fresh concept, not just story or plot idea concepts, but even storytelling method concepts. Write what you would want to watch that you feel isn't being properly explored in gacha. Do different genres, different settings, and maybe even different time periods, other than romance or school settings. Please stop that, stop it. Like, maybe it's a dystopian apocalypse with a virus everyone's trying to survive from, not necessarily like a zombie apocalypse, a magical witch cabin in the woods type fantasy, or even a detective mystery set in the 40s or 50s, noir vibes, slow jazz music, and all. It's honestly not that hard to come up with new plots either. For inspiration, go watch your favorite movies and shows, or read some books with a plot that intrigues you if you haven't picked the book up in a while. Another good place for ideas is looking into historical events that happened in various time periods and various places all around the world. It can help you understand societal norms and the cause and effects of actions in the past, because history is basically one giant storybook. Like there are plenty of ways to come up with a story, there are plenty of ways to write and to present a story. We default to only watching our protagonists go through the motions of the plot, but we can approach telling the story in many different ways besides that. I'll come up with a couple examples of what I mean. So, I know I may seem like I dislike self-introductions and narration because I've nitpicked those kinds of things in my critique show Ginger Rated series before. And yeah, of course, show, don't tell. But there are methods in which you can implement and make the narrator its own character by giving them a unique style of narration and actually integrating them well and giving them an actual purpose for the whole story. Having a narrator could be comical to a lot of people, whether because the narrator's dialogue is especially funny or maybe because they speak exaggeratedly like it's an Animal Kingdom documentary or something. Some more storytelling method suggestions are: telling your story backwards from ending to beginning. May sound hard, but it may end up as an interesting experiment and a super engaging concept to the viewers. Characters exchanging written letters or spoken journal entries. Have your characters read out what the letter or journal entry says while it's on screen and incorporate scenes and inner dialogue in between them reading it out. A story that begins with a fairy tale, legend, or myth being retold by a grandma or a town elder. This, I'm sure, has been done before, but instead of making it info-dumpy and purely informative, make it sound like more of an actual story time and face-to-face encounter. The unreliable narrator trope. This is usually for thrillers, but you can actually use it in a lot of different kinds of stories. Your main character is unreliable in a way they could be lying, making up events, perceiving people in a darker way than what's true, until the end where something happens that reveals to the viewers a lot of what they've been shown through the protagonist's perspective is actually untrue. There are many more storytelling methods I'm sure you can try that'll surely spice up your story. They're easy to come up with, and you can look up some more for inspiration. Another suggestion is to learn about story structures and to try and fit and edit your plot based on one. The 3-act story structure, the hero's journey, the save the cat story structure, etc. Whether you're someone who plans their stories meticulously or someone who just likes going with the flow, I still recommend having somewhat of a structure. Structures ensure you have an outline, an idea of how your plot is going to go, so it won't end up a complete mess with plot holes. They are very flexible, and there are different kinds for different plots, genres, and story types. Usually, there is an introduction to the world or the main character's life. Then, an inciting incident where said life is shaken and the character has to make a choice. What comes after is the promise of the premise, where you now deliver on what you promised in, well, the premise or the blurb of the story. The midpoint is where an impactful change happens, maybe in the plot or the character's mindsets. The climax, where things could be the most stressful, the most climactic, the most crucial, and a showdown or a final realization happens. Then, finally, the resolution, where the story comes to a close, with the characters coming to terms with having gone through something and changing in some way. Structures like what I've described may help fill in weak parts or blanks in your story, ensuring the plot to be much fuller and flow nicer than without one. This next one is more of a warning. Try not adding or doing any stereotypes or tropes, even if your goal is to improve them, unless you're already confident in your skills. It is creative of you to want to try and subvert a stereotype, but it's super risky to do so. Try not to take the alpha, bad boy, hated child, hybrid princess, or any of those concepts and try to remake them. We already have a surplus of those stories, and no offense, we don't need another original variation to add to the mix. Instead, you should simply aim for something original before trying to reshape a certain trope. Personally, it just seems more beneficial to explore other concepts and will honestly spark more creativity than doing an old concept but with a twist. And while trying to help improve an old one is good, you can't really dig something out of the ground when it's already 6 feet under. Speaking of making sure you have adequate writing skills, yeah, you should really work on developing those skills either before or alongside making a plot for your mini-movie or series for obvious reasons. I recommend sifting through Authortube videos that give advice on writing and how to write a novel. And yes, of course, novel writing has differences from screenwriting and gacha mini-movies. Like, I will say, whenever the line editing and editing draft topic comes up, yeah, it's best to skip that one, plus a couple others too. But they give many helpful tips you can absolutely apply to gacha stories. Here's a playlist I personally handpicked, made of Authortube videos I've watched that helped me understand writing a bit more. The first few are on plot and characters, then there's a section all about romance and love because I'm sure we all need that, then a few videos from Marvina Pierce's Dear Author series. This is a playlist with a mix of a couple different Authortube channels, and they have so many other videos besides what I added, which you should probably check out, and I'm probably going to add much more videos in the playlist in the future. So if any of their teaching and advice styles catch your attention, do go browse their channels for more. I really recommend watching Dear Authors, especially because it's not so heavy with advice and gives you a lot of insight about what readers like to see or hate to see. So that's it for part 2 of the miniseries. Sorry it took a while, I just needed to give myself some time to find motivation after school stuff, it's exam week and physical problems I don't think I have time to go into right now, as well as give the volunteer editors some time to finish their parts. Speaking of which, if you've noticed changes in the character on the left that's speaking's editing style, or if you're not illiterate and read the little captions at the bottom left, I actually asked some friends to help out with editing the talking ginger character for the next 3 episodes of this miniseries, including this one. The 2 friends that helped me work on this one were Han and Kat, and they did a really lovely job on their parts. I loved how Kat accurately captured the energy and personality I was going for, and that Han was very diligent working on hers. So thank you so much for the help, loves. The next few parts were also made with the help of some friends, so if you want to find out who or just want some more tips on writing or for writing for gacha, then stay tuned and subscribe. My social media is right here as well. The Discord server is chill, full of fun people, and I'm very, very active on there. On my Insta, my stories are random, more personality kind of stuff, and usually filled with HanPan. Anyways, that's all folks. See you soon.